Okay, I have the time is 7:30. So we will call this public hearing and regular business meeting of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, June 22nd, 2020 to order. We'll start with an invocation by Melvin Everson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Thank you all so much. It is so much going on. I tell you, it is so much going on. If this state and this country and this world ever need the intervention of God to guide us, that time is now. I'm just taking a point of privilege here. In my 62 years, be 63 years living, I've never seen so much evil permeating the land of this country. And I just pray for God's divine intervention, that he would hold this United States of America together and never let it implode. I pray for calmer heads to prevail in the state of Georgia and DC, that resolutions can come to offset a lot of the violence and evil and hatred that I've seen. And I dare not use a broad brush to paint all law enforcement officials as bad, because I have members of my family that are members of the law enforcement, good people. And I support LEO with all my being. And those that have caused harm, I ask that the justice system seek and find justice for those that have been harmed by the injustice of those law enforcement officials. But nevertheless, we have to, and I implore all of you, we must continue to support our police officers and ladies, because if not, we will head down the road of anarchy and this great nation will be destroyed. And I did not serve 23 years or elect in the city council here in Snellville, or serve in the Georgia House of Representatives, or get appointed by Governor Deal and still working for the state of Georgia to see that happen to this great nation. Is she perfect? No. Has she done things that people find offensive? Yes. But having served overseas, I can tell you, having lived in other nations, I can tell you, as my dad, World War II veteran, he said, son, no matter where you go, no matter what takes place, you still live in the greatest nation on the planet, and don't ever forget that. And that's what I hold dear right now. And I share that with my son and my grandchildren and my siblings. And I just pray that we will move beyond this point and look for the good in all of us, that we live in a great nation. With that, I didn't mean to go there, but I just had to say that. With that, let us pray. Father God, I thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for your mercy and your grace. Father, you know what this nation, what this state is confronted with. Pandemic, racial unrest, violence, looting, stealing. Father, we know we can pass laws to say, you can't do this, or we're going to do away with that, or we're going to move statues, or whatever the case may be. But deep down in my heart, I believe that the only way we're going to get better, the only way we're going to find a peaceful resolution to this, is that you intervene and change the heart of man. I can remove all the statues in the world, but the heart of man does not change to seek you and the good in every human being that you've created. Nothing will change. I pray for our leaders, from the president to the governor, all the elected officials throughout this state of Georgia and United States of America, that they will come to the table and peacefully resolve these issues. Stop with the mudslinging, stop with the backbiting, stop with the vitriolic comments. Sit down and lead like adults. Sit down and address these issues, because too much is at stake right now. This nation is on the verge of imploding, and I don't want to see that. Father, continue to bless this mayor and council here in Snellville. I appreciate everything they do. And I appreciate the citizens of Snellville for having a peaceful protest here. And I witnessed that and I was just amazed. Peaceful protest with the law enforcement officials who stood by them to say, yes, we're with you. And we ask for justice for all those that have been wrongly done by law enforcement officials. And Father, we continue to lift all of our law enforcement officials up, guide them with integrity, and guide this nation as you've done for so many years, because she is a beacon of light and hope for so many who are seeking that opportunity. And Father, I continue to lift them up, and all the officials here in Snellville and all the city staff here throughout this great city. I love Snellville, I love this state, and I so love the United States of America. With that, Father, while I dare not omit anything, I choose to end this prayer in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Melvin. And now we'll have the pledge to the flag led by Councilwoman DeStang.
Let's all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no ceremonial matters, so we'll move to the minutes. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of the June 8th, 2020 meetings.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. We have no invited guests and no committee or department reports. Now we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve tonight's agenda with 2 changes. We're going to move new business items A through D to the consent agenda. And we will be adding item J under new business, consideration and action on the 4th Amendment to the Master Development Agreement.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the agenda with modifications. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Now we have 2 items under our public hearing agenda. The first item is item A, second reading, RZ 20-01, CUP 20-01, consideration and recommendation on applications by Valbona Azeri to amend the official zoning map of the city of Snellville from BG District to HSB District, and to request for a conditional use permit for the construction and operation of an automotive repair shop, and request for variances from corridor overlay district requirements, landscape ordinance, and architectural design standards. The 1.13 plus or minus acre tract of property located at 2001 East Main Street, Snellville, Georgia. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor, for doing the heavy lifting and reading all that out. I'll just touch it up again. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for being here, and the public as well. It's case number RZ 20-01 with a CUP 20-01 as well. They're here to request a rezoning from BG to HSB Highway Service Business District, and in a conditional use permit for a commercial or a floral shop and an auto service and repair shop. The applicants are here as well as with their engineer Bobby Bullard of Bullard Land Planning. The department received this request for this 1 acre tract on 2001 East Main Street. As you can see, it's located adjacent to the Family Tree Garden, Future Services. Across the street, I believe you've got Mellow Mushroom, and then another automotive vehicular establishment there in HSB, and to the north with some R100 neighborhood that is located in unincorporated Gwinnett. It's also located on the Highway 78 commercial corridor overlay. So basically, in order to have a auto body repair shop, you have to first zone into HSB, so that's the first part of the request. And then under that zoning, the conditional use permit governs how the automotive shop would run. And just so everybody can kind of see the layout, let me zoom in a little bit. Oh, a little too far. It's your fault, Todd. All right.
Mine doesn't even go on.
I'm not touching it.
That's a 25, I can see.
Can you see it? That's a good resolution, though. Seriously. Money well spent. I'm afraid to hold it down again, so please. I really hit it one time. We'll just leave it there, okay? All right. Everybody still okay? Okay, so out in the front you have an existing ranch property that's been there, I believe, since 1971. It was originally constructed as a residential use and has since been converted to, I think the last thing it was a hair salon. So typical of those kind of developments, you have the existing house, parking lot in the front, and it was done before any kind of requirements of the landscape code. In order to better utilize the property owner has requested to put what you see in the rear is the actual building. And part of the requirements for a conditional use permit are to have a 6-foot high opaque fence which surrounds the entire parking lot. And then to the north there you'll see the detention pond, and then the required 60-foot buffer. They've also requested a couple of variances due to the corridor overlay and the age of the property. And I'll get to those in a second. 2040 comprehensive plan supports loosely these kind of businesses on the Highway 78 corridor, a corridor with highly developed activity nodes and standalone commercial buildings. Just looking at the site plan, let me please, I got to get a little closer. There's the rear building and then the associated parking as per the code. And it would share a driveway with the front business, which they were kind of envisioning as maybe a florist or a bakery or something like that. So I'll just go through the variance request and then give you a little breakdown on whether we wanted to approve those or deny them. On the southeast corner of a property, the existing driveway clips into what would be a landscape strip. It's just small encroachment, so we recommended approval for that. They had also requested to be exempt from using decorative parking lights and exterior building lighting. That's part of the corridor overlay. We don't recommend approval for that. We actually recommend denial. Part of the corridor overlay is to enhance the corridor, and that's what we're trying to do there. He's requested to eliminate interparcel access to the west there at Future Services, where the grade is not appropriate and the parking lots wouldn't even connect. Future Services curb cuts further down. There's just a lot of a yard there, so we recommend approval for that. You can see the connection to family tree garden shown as required. They've asked to be exempt from having to install decorative street lights. They actually have that same pattern has already been done on the neighboring property, so the length between the next set would actually fall on family tree gardens lots because their lot frontage is short. We recommended approval for that. They asked for some variances from architectural design requirements for the new building to be allowed to use CMU or split-face masonry block. And we recommended denial for that. Want to keep it nice and use the appropriate building materials. But just in general conclusion, and do want to touch on one of the issues with the property too as far as the landscaping goes. At the time of purchase, the applicant had intruded or encroached into the buffer and the side landscape strips. and took some trees out basically without permission. Was cited and then adjudicated on, even though they're separate issues, just so full disclosure, was adjudicated on Thursday. They do have an approved landscape plan for the replacement of the trees regardless of approval or denial of the zoning. This will be done because the trees were removed without permission. You can see the buffer trees in the rear and then some on the sides. All the TDUs that they took down will be replaced. Because it's not planting season, they've posted a performance bond as well. They'll plant, the trees have already been purchased, and they will plant them October, September, if it's cool enough, when the nurseries begin to dig the trees again, because they won't dig in the heat right now because it'll basically kill them. So we recommended approval for the zoning and the conditional use permit with several conditions that are typically in there. We did enhance condition 6 about the buffer to include this plan, should it be approved, and just stuff about new sidewalks, dumpster pad enclosures. All the damage and rotting woods on the existing building shall be replaced and brought up to code. And then we go further to approve the 4 variances for interparcel access, the street lighting on the front, the parking location to have more than 20% in front of the existing house. And those were the 3 variances we recommended approval for, and I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Jason, I've got one question. When we're doing this rezoning, it's requested to go to HSB for the automotive center in the back.
Correct.
Is that correct? But we're not rezoning just that portion of the property, we're rezoning the entire
we wouldn't
lot.
want to have split zoning. Basically, we're not allowed, in the past they would do that. It creates a lot of confusion when the tax parcel is different from the zoning parcel, so we don't allow split zoning. So unless they were to cut it and divide it, they're requesting the whole property.
Okay,
But the existing building in the front would remain.
okay. Any other council members have a question for Mr. Thompson? Is the applicant here? If you'd like to come up and state your case.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Bullard, and this is Tony Azeri. His wife, Ilona, is here too. And I wanted to just thank you. I just really appreciate what you said in your prayer. It meant a lot to me. Kind of along the same lines, I do engineering plans all the time. Now, right now, thank the Lord, we have a lot of work right now. And I work with a lot of different people, all kinds of people. And this project, when I first started, it really, honestly, has kind of become personal, because I really have grown to love these people. And I've heard their story. And first of all, I need to give you something. He's the Constitution. They're from Kosovo, and he just told me a story. And first of all, just his love of this country is not to be diminished. He and his family just really, really, really appreciate what this country's done for them. And he just told me a story about how they had tried 3 times to get out. And in the end, they finally, after 3 times walking for 48 hours, trying 3 times, they got trapped, and the Serbian army, right, got them. And the Americans came and said, no, you're not taking these 1,300 people, after a lot of them had died. And they gave them food. And so his love for this country is beyond very inspiring. So I'm going to put that in this category, in this little, and then I'm going to get to the zoning. because I know that's what we're here for. Everything that he's done on this property, he's done with that in mind. He just really appreciates being here, and he appreciates the American ability to be able to come here, buy a piece of property, develop it, earn a living, and do the best he can do, as we all do here in this country. We're very blessed in that way. He bought this property, and when he bought it, it had real problems. And there was trash, there was drug needles, there was all kinds of garbage all over this property. It was covered with, I'm going to pull this down a little bit. This is the view back towards, there's an area outside of the city which is in unincorporated Gwinnett County, and this is looking towards that, and it's covered with kudzu vines. And these kudzu vines were killing all the trees. And he came down and talked to the city, and they gave him permission to move some trees. And he hired a landscaping company. I'm going to show you just a little bit. And so they began. You can see some of the trash that was there. It was a real eyesore. This is right at the buffer. They ended up taking down 2 trees in the buffer. This is right at the buffer, and this is one of the trees. You can see how the kudzu vines have brought the tree down. And he ended up, an arborist went through there, and there were 2 trees in the buffer, and then there were 30 trees elsewhere. And their attitude from the start was to do the right thing and to pay whatever they needed to pay, and whatever it is to make it right. So they didn't argue. They ended up, as you heard last Thursday, they paid a $15,000 fine for taking those trees down. Most of these trees were 1-inch trees that you could cut down with a machete, and they were already destroyed. And he wouldn't, Tony probably wouldn't like me saying this, but it was really a lot of really small trees that he paid a huge fine for, $15,000 plus. He's paying $20,000, $953 to get them replanted. And he fully agrees and wants to do that and wants to do the right thing. So with that, I wanted to get into the zoning itself. The piece of property is zoned BG now, which you can put up a fast food restaurant, or you can put up a motel, you can put up equipment rental, or consumer fireworks, whatever that is really, tanning salons, department stores, and you can develop right up to that buffer. But what Tony wants to do, and his wife wants to run the flower shop in the front, and he wants to run a small mechanic shop in the back. And I have I live in Snellville. I've been here since 1982. And we could really use somebody of his character and their character in Snellville. And I would really hope y'all would consider, I know you're supposed to consider the zoning for what it is, but consider the people. And the Planning Commission did. They voted in our favor, and we really appreciate that. They've done everything they can do to remedy the situation with the landscaping. It was, and he takes full responsibility, but it was a landscape company that came in and did the taking out of and what they were doing is taking down vines, but a couple of the trees came down. So the plan as far as the variances, we're fully in agreement with what Jason, any variances that you guys don't want to grant, he doesn't want. We felt like it would work best with the plan, but that's fine. We fully agree with Jason's recommended approval. And I just wanted to give Mr. Tony a moment I know he wants to share his heart a little bit with you guys. So, and then I want to just entertain any questions y'all may have.
Good evening, Mayor Council, and good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank you so much for giving us the chance to present this project. I would like to thank also the opposition and everybody here. If you could give me 1 minute, please. I really am so sorry, and we apologize, me and my wife, with me is my wife, Albona, what has happened to this parcel that we bought. We never intended to do anything like that. We did not know how to properly vet the people who were doing the vines. I know the concern of the opposition, and I feel very sorry for them to go through this. I would like to thank you for giving me the time. This is our dream. If it wasn't for you guys, taxpayers of this country, we would not be here speaking, because you are the ones who saved me, my wife, my family, the whole 2 million people during 1999. And everybody here, and opposition and everybody, it is you guys who brought me here, saved our life, give us opportunity to do something here. And what this gentleman just said here, I endure and experience this country, regardless if it passes tonight, this or down. What this country has done for us, forever we are in debt to this country and to you guys. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Going to the project. Again, we are so sorry to the city, to Jason, to everybody, by what has been caused to that parcel. Whatever it was asked to us, we hope we did, in our best knowledge and ability, we did what we could to satisfy whatever it was asked by the city. And we are willing to do whatever they ask us to bring the place as it was, regardless of this session tonight. The city, the judge told us to keep on track what we are doing, and we pledge 100% we are doing that. We planted the trees between September 25th and October 5th. We bought the performance bond and maintenance bond. We have the approval by Mr. Thompson, which is here. The judge have seen it, approved it, and we intend to do that 100%. On top of that, we pledged to give to the city another 15 trees, just to show at least we can do something what we have caused there. And we're gonna work in the future with Jason where he wants those trees to be planted. Again, I hope, this is our dream, for my wife to have the flower shop there, and for us, for me to have a small building, 32 square feet, mechanic shop, 1 to 2 lifts, but it's gonna be like a more boutique mechanic shop than just regular standard shop. So everything what the city will ask us, we will do, and whatever opposition here, the neighbors want, if they want to have a committee, I'm 100% with that, because after all, we're gonna be neighbor, and we don't want to do anything that would harm anybody. If we knew that this project will harm anybody, I can guarantee tonight I will stop. But we think it's gonna be good for the community there, with the prices that we can offer, and for family to work there. Another thing, right now what we have at the house is built 1971. You cannot develop that with too many options. You are very limited in options because it doesn't have a sewer, and also how the slope it is. So if you were to open the business on the front, the highest offer we got so far is $1,300 to lease it. Where maintenance of the building, including taxes and all the utilities, it's $1,750 a month. So unless we utilize the parcel on the back, we're not gonna be able to do anything with that. As it stands, the building right now, we got the estimates, is gonna be between $155,000 to $175,000 to bring to the coding. because it doesn't have sidewalks, structure is wrong. It has a lots of sinkholes on the back. They were improperly dumping illegal stuff there. We did clean, but we stopped after what has happened. And after tonight, we will again get permission from the city to go and clean what it was left and fill up the sinkholes and so on. With that said, I hope you consider this. If not, I apologize, me and my family. We thank you for your time. May God bless you, and thank you for giving us a chance and the opportunity. We are indebted for the rest of our life for this country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Aziri and Mr. Bullard. Are there any questions of council for Mr. Bullard or Mr. Aziri? No questions? Thank you. We'll open up the floor to public comment, and then you'll have an opportunity to come up and rebut anything that may be said. This is a public hearing, so we will now open the floor to the public. If you would like to come up and speak either for or against the project, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kim Maddox. My address is 2559 Silver King Drive, Grayson. I live at the property directly behind the property that we're discussing right now. I don't want to dwell on this, but because I thought we'd already kind of moved past it, but just for the record, this was a totally wooded lot. You can see there and there, those are, I think I sent you those pictures. I sent an email last month with my concerns, so I'm going to try to be brief because I know we have a lot to go over, but it was not 1-inch trees. It was a fully wooded lot. Ever since that's been cleared, we've had a lot of issues with noise and light pollution and flooding. Here's some of the flooding problems that have started on my property because of the clearing. I know that there's going to be a retention pond that's supposed to solve those issues, but the retention ponds that are already adjacent to my property from the existing businesses are not helping. They actually create more problems. We have terrible mosquito problems. This is the standing water in them. This water flows out of this directly onto my property. These two small holes, I don't know if you can tell, but that's water that continually flows off of the commercial properties that are by my house. So when it rains, it doesn't just flood for a day, it floods for days and days because that water is constantly being released onto my property. Now, I know before he had mentioned that the technology is better now, so I hope that, that is true. I don't know what they're planning on doing as far as that. But of course, my concerns as a residential area adjoining to this is light pollution and noise pollution, flooding. I know you hear that all the time. But for this particular business, an automotive repair, I have concerns about the chemicals that are being used, the noise. There's already a auto repair a couple doors down, Eurofed, and it is very loud. It's not, this is Future, and then Eurofed is right here. So there's constant cars starting, doors slamming, alarms going off, tow trucks beeping. The air tools that they use are very loud. Garage doors opening and closing, and just the type of business I have concerns about, because I feel like there's a lot of businesses that could be operated on this property that aren't going to have a negative effect on the residents behind it. I have concerns about the chemicals that are used. I know that they have requirements for disposal, but just runoff from the parking lot. In his plan, that's 33 parking spots. That's a lot of parking for what he says is going to be a small repair. Also, I know that they said that there was going to be a fence around there. A 6-foot fence really doesn't cover a lot. I mean, They have a fence at Future, but as you can see, that's my view. All their trucks and vehicles and everything. This is the view of the property now that everything has been cleared off of it. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of nervous. I'm not used to talking in front of people. The other concern that I have is, this is the same view, but this is where my house is. This is not at the back of my property. I am 20 feet off of that property line. So all this, even with the buffer, is going to be within 100 feet of my front of my house. I know they're going to replant here, and I'm happy to hear that they're going to do that. There was at one time mention of a privacy fence. I don't know if that's still in the plan or not. I know they're going to put a fence around the parking lot. My other concern is the lighting. I feel like they're going to have lighting back there for security. This is, like I said, very close to my house. It's going to light up my yard and my area 24 hours a day. I'm not against, businesses. This is a commercial property, I understand that. I just am not for the rezoning of this for this type of business because I feel like it has a negative impact on the subdivision behind it. We all along 78 have flooding problems, also Hickory Village from the commercial businesses up there, and the noise and the light, and this is just going to contribute more to it. So those are my concerns I wanted to share with you. Thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for taking them into consideration. And like I said, I'm not against business. I actually own a small business in Snellville too, so I support our local businesses. I'm just concerned how this is going to affect me. This is so close to my house, and my question is the zoning, is the reason this has to be zoned different because it should not be that close to a residence? Is because of the chemicals, the noise, and all the things that type of business bring to the area. We already are subjected to all those things from Eurofed that's a couple doors down. So that's all. Just thank you for your consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Maddox. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either for or against? Seeing no one else, Mr. Bullard, if you'd like to make a comment to any of those comments?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to express respond to a couple of our concerns. Number one is the tree survey that was done out there. He located 4 trees that were in the buffer that were taken down. 2 of those were 2-inch trees, and then he located 28 other trees. There were only 2 trees that were 10 inches in diameter. The other 28 were under 10 inches. 5 of them were 1 inch. So it was a lot of small trees. But again, Tony is definitely going to replant and make that buffer very nice. The second issue that she brought up was the detention pond. Back when the 2 ponds, there's a pond on either side of Tony's property. And back before 2001, there was no requirement for water quality. It was just detention. All you had to do was just reduce the peak rate at your boundary property line, and you're done. It didn't matter what it looked like or how you did it, and you just basically concentrated and pointed downstream. A lot has changed. Since then, in around 2002, they adopted water quality, and as of last 2017, they adopted runoff reduction, which in this case, what we would do is we would put in an infiltration trench, which would capture and treat the water within the trench, and I can safely say that the water that she took pictures of that's from the property above and below her will, some of it will be treated in our pond. So it will be a much better condition than what it is now as far as the water quality, what's behind there. The other thing is with auto, we do a lot, we'll do, not a lot, but we do auto oil change places and gas stations, and they are required. Any oil change, anybody who works with mechanics, you can't leave that on site. You can't even put it in the sewer system. It has to be caught in a oil water separator and hauled off site. So it will be, there will not be water, the oil coming from the site. But if some drips off the cars or whatever, it will go into this stormwater treatment system that will treat the water. The other thing is the lighting. You know, I understand that you can have the type of lighting that is point down so that it doesn't face towards the neighbors, and I believe that's part of the requirement already. And then again, I just wanted to emphasize one more thing, is just the, you know, a fast food restaurant, loudspeakers, noise, motels, equipment rental, consumer fireworks store, tanning salons. That's what they can put there now. He wants to build something that has to do with what he can build and make a living with. And she happens to want to put up a flower shop, and he wants to do the mechanic shop. And I just would ask you guys just to consider that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Bullard. All right, we'll either entertain a motion or comments by council. Oh, before you do that, I did have one question Ms. Maddox brought up. With the landscape plan in the buffer, is it a berm or is it going to be a fence in there?
It can be a berm or a fence, whatever covers the best. Typically, a berm is less maintenance than a fence over time, but I think the applicant would be agreeable to either.
Okay.
It's up
I didn't
to
know if it was already in there
It's up to
somewhere.
my discretion at
Okay.
basically at permitting.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay.
Okay, if there's a council member, yes, sir.
Can I just ask, can I add one more question? I mean, one more statement, please?
Sure.
Okay. I can put this. So the lady has a concern on the back of her property, which is gonna be here. With the city's approval, we're gonna put another fence here. If the lady sees it reasonable, we will put another fence here.
Okay.
And the lightning that's gonna go for security on the back is gonna be from here going this side, not going back to her side.
Okay.
And all the trees that this planning approved it, that's gonna be here planted, and then the fence. But we are willing 100% to work with her anytime she wants, however she wants on the back. We will be 100% in support of however she wants as far as the protection and fence and everything. But everything is gonna be on the fence,
Okay.
of course with the city approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Aziri.
Thank you.
Now, is there a motion by council?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that, do we have to do these separately? We deny RZ 20-01.
Okay, I have a motion to deny. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to deny. At this point, Mr. Bullard or Mr. Aziri, would you like to, you have the opportunity before the vote if you'd like to withdraw the application, or if you want us to move forward with the vote.
And Madam Mayor, it's my understanding that once it is rejected, that there is a 12-month moratorium on any further rezoning. Is that correct?
Is that, Mr. Thompson, is that correct? Is 12 months?
So by withdrawing, they
They-
have the ability to come back in under 12 months. So I just,
That's correct. Did you understand that, Mr. Bullard? Continue the vote, okay. All right, so I have a motion to deny by Mr. Warner and a second by Ms. Linsky. All in favor, please raise your right hand. It is six votes to deny and none to approve. So the motion is denied. And now we will move to item B, second reading SUP 20-01, consideration and recommendation on application by SCG LH Snellville LP, a Delaware limited partnership, and by SCG LH GP LLC, a Delaware limited liability company, its general partner, for special use permit for an extended stay hotel and variances from the 12/9/2019 enacted ordinance ZOA 19-03 for hotels, motels, and extended stay hotels, and more specifically to allow for the continued operation of the existing in-town suites Snellville located on the 2.8 plus or minus acre property zoned HSB district and BG district, 1784 Presidential Circle, Snellville, Georgia. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor. Case number, once again, is SUP 20-01. This is a result of an ordinance that Mayor and Council passed, ZOA 1903 on 12/9/2019, regulating hotels, motels, and extended stays. As you all are well know, that there's been quite a bit of discussion with this owner, SGH, or known as doing business as In-Town Suites, on negotiating and finding a compromise between the city's new regulations and the way that they've conducted business since they've owned the property, or some of their grandfathered rights to operate. So the result of this submission for the SUP is in a general agreement with the city that they'll get the SUP, and then they'll become conforming in the city's eyes for the future, as long as it stays the same size and everything like that. It's currently 2 acres, 130 room hotel, has 130 spaces. It's been there for quite some time. It's 50,000 square feet, 3-story building. But the variances are really kind of the meat of this request, and because of the way they've operated in the past, and then the new ordinance, which is much stricter, they negotiated with the city and requested these variances, and I'll just go through them. And we've recommended approval for all of these. So basically, they've asked for variance from 2213D, which requires a hotel attendant to be in the lobby 24 hours, and instead they have an live-in attendant that's on call 24 hours. We recommend approval. They have requested a variance removing the requirement that each patron must have a vehicle on site. Not everyone is able or may use public transit to get to and from work or school or wherever they need to go. Variance from section 2215 regarding connecting doors. Although there are 18 doors or rooms that connect, they are not allowed or authorized for use by the patrons or guests, but they do have them there, so they would need variance from that. They've also asked that the applicant may use up to 72 individual guest rooms to be occupied by any person more than 180 days, provided, however, that the transfer party acquiring, basically, and also if it continues on with the sale of the property. And part of the condition is that, and that's 78 out of the 130 rooms, be required to meet with the chief of Snellville or his designee for any purposes establishing a reasonable incident reduction plan in the event that more than 6 separate criminal incidents occur within any rolling 90-day period. In that event, during the 12-month period following a criminal incident reference date with more than 6 separate criminal incidents occur, have this variance subject to review by mayor and city council, so it would come before you again if there became a problem. From what I understand, the applicant has cleaned the place up. The operations are doing good, and there's been way less calls for service there from what I understand talking to Chief Whitehead. They also want to be allowed to require cleaning services every 72 hours, but they do reserve the right to check the rooms every 48 hours, so every 2 days, just to make sure. Previously, some of those people could have been there for years and they'd never been checked on. There was no cleaning services, and that can be a danger when you don't really know what's going on in there. So we recommend approval for that. They're not required to make any alteration to any guest rooms based on sizes, any minimums or maximums that they meet. It's already built. And they don't have to redo the lobby per the code. And I believe originally the applicant had agreed to not allow any third-party pay. And a situation came up where the city actually asked the applicant, due to some nonprofits trying to help some people, that would they be open to that. And they were following the order and doing what was agreed upon, and they said yes. And I believe written into this ordinance is the allowance for 6 rooms of third-party pay. Is that correct, Mr. Ross? And that's what we have here. You have your ordinance. You have that incorporated into your ordinance. And we'd ask for approval of this SUP, please.
Any questions of council for Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, Jason, I believe you said that, and I know this was one of my points early on, that they had to inspect each room every 48 hours. I thought we'd changed that to 72 hours.
They have to clean every 72, correct? But they have to inspect every 2 days.
Okay, all right, and they're okay with it?
Yep.
That's what we agreed to. All right, then I'm good.
Anyone else? Is the applicant here? If you'd like to come forward and make any comment?
Thank you. Mayor Bender, members of council, Director Thompson, and City Attorney Ross, I just want to say on behalf of the applicant, thank you for the city's process. It's been great working with you to bring this issue to the attention of the city and to reach what we believe will be the final step in the resolution here tonight. So for that, we say thank you on behalf of In-Town Suites and its management and the individuals who have been, we think, working in great cooperation with Chief Whitehead and other members of Snellville PD, installing the flock camera, making sure that we are a valued and trusted member of the community here. So for that, I just want to say thank you. If there's anything else I can add, please let me know. But otherwise, it's been great working with everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Stolz. And now this is a public hearing, so I will open the floor to public comment. If anyone would like to make any comment, either for or against this special use permit, please come forward. Seeing none, I will close the public comment. And is there a motion by council?
Motion to approve SUP 20-01 with reference to ordinance 2020-10.
There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments by council? Then all in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Okay, you're all legal and legit now. Okay, under the approval of the agenda, we did move several things to our consent agenda, and what they are, you can find those items under new business, items A through D. And what these are all the reappointments that we have to our boards. We have reappointments to the Planning Commission, the Board of Appeals, the Downtown Development Authority of Snellville, and then also the Parks and Rec board members. So for those 4 items, we've moved them under the consent agenda, if there's no objections. And with that, all in favor of approving the consent agenda, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. We appreciate everyone who serves on our boards and appreciates all of those who are agreeing to stay on for another term. Now we will move to new business item E. This is nomination and council confirmation on appointment of Melvin Everson to post 6 of the Development Authority of Snellville with an expiration date of June 30th, 2023. That's my nomination. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. I know you're sweating that one, Melvin. Then we have item F, also appointing Melvin Everson to post 6 of the Urban Redevelopment Authority with an expiration date of June 30th, 2023. And for anyone who may be questioning, typically the work of the Development Authority of Snellville and the Urban Redevelopment Authority overlaps what they do, so we essentially have most of the same people on both boards. So I've nominated Melvin Everson for post 6. I know it says post 4 in the agenda, but we have made that change. And with that, all in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Todd was thinking about it.
Yeah, really. Should have put the little hand.
Now we'll move to item G. We have a first reading, ordinance 2020-11. First readings for anyone who doesn't understand. We have, anytime we're changing an ordinance or a law in the city, we have to present it twice on a city council agenda. This first reading is essentially just reading the title, and then we waive it to our next meeting. So it's amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Snellville, Georgia, Chapter 38 and Chapter 6, to provide for provisions regarding consumption of alcoholic beverages in public within the Snellville Town Center, to provide severability, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide an adoption and effective date, and to provide for other lawful purposes. And just a note on what this ordinance will do is it will allow, once the town center area is built, that alcoholic beverages can be carried from one place to another inside the town center. Is there a motion?
Motion to waive the first reading of ordinance 2020-11 and place it on the agenda of the July 13th, 2020 meeting.
Okay, there's a motion to waive the first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Next, we have first reading, ordinance 2020-12, amend the Code of Ordinances, City of Snellville, Georgia, Chapter 42, Parks and Recreation, to provide for provisions regarding special use permits for outdoor sale and consumption of alcoholic beverages on park property, to provide severability, to provide for repeal of conflicting ordinances, to provide an adoption and effective date, and to provide for other lawful purposes. What this ordinance would do is, the Parks and Rec Department would like to do certain parties and events out in the park, one being a watch party for the Atlanta United soccer team, and then to be able to serve alcohol or sell alcohol at those events. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve ordinance 2020-12 as read by the mayor. I'm sorry, motion to waive first reading and place it on the July 13th
Could you not follow the
agenda.
instructions? I'm sorry, Dave. Motion to waive, is it?
Motion to waive and place on the July 13th agenda for a second read.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, raise your hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. Next, we have item A, consideration and action on our approval of design and construction contract from Root Design. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the design and construction contract from Root Design for landscape architecture work in the town center, not to exceed the amount of $85,000.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
So motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. And we have new item J, approval of the Fourth Amendment to the Master Development Agreement, amending the date to August 25th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the Fourth Amendment to the Master Development Agreement for the development of the city's town center to extend the design review period to August 25th, 2020.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. That is 6 in favor and none opposed. This is the most business we've had on a meeting in quite a while. Kind of tired. And now we will, that closes all our business meetings, so we will move to council reports, and we'll start with Councilmember Warner.
Really? I get to go first? Just because I
well, 'cause you're sitting
have
over
a
there.
microphone again?
Sorry.
I've got a microphone again. Everybody watch out. To all the fathers out there who enjoyed Father's Day yesterday, happy Father's Day. Congratulations. Thanks for coming out tonight, everybody. I think the fathers outnumber the mothers here tonight, so I guess I did that right. One of the things that's very hard for me as a city council person is to ever vote down a zoning, and we would never do that lightly. I would never make that motion lightly. It's very important for me as a council person, and I know for all of my fellow members, to make sure that we have an inviting and open community that brings business in and embraces them. But we also have a duty to protect what's already here and protect our fellow Gwinnetians, even if they're not the citizens of Snellville. And one of the items that came before us tonight actually was changing something that we explicitly said in our discussions of the comp plan that we would not put in that area. And we only passed that comp plan a year ago, a little over a year ago. So to me, it's important that we uphold the community standards that we said we are going to uphold. So I hate to ever tell a business no, but sometimes it's the appropriate thing to do. And thank you all for coming. Hopefully you'll come back and see us again.
Thank you, Todd. And Councilmember Destang.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to make just a quick comment on the June 10th peaceful march and rally that was organized by our very own South Gwinnett High School class of 2020. I felt a sense of pride when I saw people of all walks of life, all colors, all genders, all professions join in on this peaceful march. I want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who came and supported this event. Also, the First Baptist Church of Snellville is giving away fresh produce. To secure a pickup, you can enter through the South Commons entrance Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then a member of the church will actually assist you further into the kitchen. And they intend to continue this food distribution of free produce as well as gallons of milk for as long as it continues to be made available to us. So please, if you know of anyone who is in need of food, fresh produce, fruit, and so on, then please refer them to go pick up a box of produce at the First Baptist Church of Snellville. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Linsky?
Erica, could you put up some pictures? I also wanted to reiterate the pride that we all had, I think, in participating in this peaceful protest here in Snellville for racial equality on June 10th, and share some of the photos with you expressing the diversity, the multi-generational attendance of the participants. And I believe we had over 500 protesters marching from the Baptist Church over to the town green. The event was safe, organized, and peaceful, unlike so many other images of what we have seen and continue to see, unfortunately, on the news every night. And this is really largely due to the city's staff reaching out to the students. Our police chief, Roy Whitehead, worked so hard with the students to keep them on track. He showed them grace, patience, and guidance so that this event could be as powerful and peaceful as it was. Our city manager, Butch Sanders, was such a constant source of guidance to these students as well. I can't even imagine how many times they called you. Over and over, you took every phone call, answered every question that the students had. I really appreciate how much you encouraged them to become involved in the city. Mayor Bender, your words of support and encouragement at the end of the event were incredibly profound. And I think all of us could truly see how these and other events that we have here in the city embrace the diversity of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Schultz?
I wanted to give recognition to former council member Bobby Howard tonight. He is organizing this Friday an all-day potluck to honor the Snellville Police Department as well as area first responders. And he's asking folks to bring food for the event. He wants to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner that day from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. that night, and is also asking for volunteers to help with the event. So I think that's a wonderful way to recognize our local law enforcement folks and first responders. And the one other thing I wanted to mention is a personal item. I wanted to say to my husband and soulmate Kurt, this Saturday will be our 50th anniversary. And so we're proud of that.
Thank you, Gretchen. Mayor Pro Tem Emanuel.
Gretchen, I don't know how you did it for 50 years. I'm sure it isn't.
I'm not always easy either.
I don't know if anybody realizes it, but I yielded much of my time to Todd Warner, so I'm going to make this short. We hear a lot about the police departments and how bad they are and how they should be disbanded. And I think people need to come to Snellville to see how it's done right. I think we have an exceptional police department, have had for years. They have instituted measures that people are just now asking for. And they instituted those of their own volition, not because of any pressure, largely through the guidance of Chief Whitehead to do things the right way. And I don't think we can thank them enough because they work hard. They do a difficult job, they do it well, and they do it continuously. So I think a round of applause for our police department. And that's all I've got to say.
So that'll close council reports and just a few items on the mayor's report. I too would like to comment on the peace rally that was held on June the 10th. I was thinking we already had a council meeting since then. It just already seems so long ago. But, echoing what Solange and Christie said, when we first heard about a march being held here in the city, of course, the first thoughts are that it's going to, be what's happened around the nation. And then when we found out it was high school seniors that were putting it together, then it all turned to how do we keep the kids safe? And that was always my biggest concern, not that we would have trouble from our citizens and from the students, but that, some of these bad actors would come in and try to take over the event and create problems. And like Christy said, I can't thank Butch Sanders and Chief Whitehead, Rob Pendleton, enough for the efforts that they put in to help guide the kids. I don't think they ever got the impression that they were being suppressed or not allowed to do things, but it was really about how can we make it, or how could they make it better and more effective and then safe as well. The city did close down Oak Road from 78 to Clower at 5 o'clock in the middle of the week, which is never a nice experience if you're coming down 124 or North Road. But we closed the road again for more safety, and I could not be more proud of these high school seniors for the program that they put on, the speakers that they had. The speakers, the seniors that spoke, the students that spoke were phenomenal and very inspiring. And it makes you feel good that we do have this caliber of leadership coming up for our country. And I hope everybody takes the message to heart, the reason for the rally. And there were young kids and there were old folks and there was everybody in between. And I just feel like the whole event went very, very well. And we look forward to continuing discussions and hoping that we don't just gloss over these issues and let them fester longer, to let's address where the issues are and where the concerns are, and try to have a good meeting of the minds here in the city. And with that, I will close the mayor's report. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment? You may come forward. State your name and address for the record. Congratulations on 50 years.
Thank you. Kurt Schultz, 2027 Tanglewood Drive. I haven't been able to track down my local council member recently, but one thing I was just wanted to make sure, and it may already been taken care of, was the first reading of the ordinance for permits for outdoor sales and consumption of alcoholic beverages. Anyway, I hope there's something in there, concerning the farmers market vendors, that somehow they will be included. We haven't had anybody ever ask to, be able to give out samples or to sell wine, but I think it's something we need to consider, and, let's get it done this first go around so we don't have to go through changes in the future. And So if it, if you can handle that at this point before the next meeting to address that, I think it would be something good to do. So anyway, and happy anniversary. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Anyone else?
Melvin Everson, 1725 Winding Creek Circle. Thank you for your vote of confidence for appointment to the board. One last thing, I apologize to Mayor Pro Tem Dave Emanuel for calling him at 8 o'clock in the morning to tell him it is a roundabout at Fort Ridgedale. Thank you so much.
Oh, ye of little faith. Well, apparently the Krispy Kreme coming shut down our Facebook page. It got so many shares and likes that Facebook is questioning who we are as an organization. So hopefully the page will be back up soon.
It's understandable.
We'll see. I think it's the Krispy Kreme bots that have gotten out there to spread the message. So with that, closing public comment, so we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor? 6 in favor, none opposed. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you.